Right, on to Street Talk then, and I'm looking forward to this one because I thought the curry was pretty good this week. Do you enjoy it this week?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, come on, get yourself warm. We need like a warm-up act for the podcast sometimes, don't we? Just to get us in the... I'm already in the mood. I think this is going to be a good one. We had the Roy story. We had Violet come back for the first time in over 10 years. We had Paul and Billy's story making a triumphant return. It feels like it's been so long since we've had any adventures with those two. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a bit of a chat about this. So we are going to start off with a Roy story, Gem. I've just called it Terrorised this week.
I wondered what that was supposed to say.
Yeah, you're reading the notes, but now I say it out loud, it makes perfect sense.
Paolo lies.
And is hilarious. Terrorised. But how about this one then? What's this supposed to be a play on? Carpool karaoke.
Carpool karaoke.
Yeah, like carpool karaoke.
No,
Carpool
it doesn't work.
karaoke.
It doesn't even work.
No, that doesn't work, does it? Oh, can we call it? Well, how about a Violet confrontation?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying that these are any classics. I didn't even realise the Cassie story was coming into those. I don't even know. I don't have a storyline title for that. Sorry. We had a bit more of the Think It's All Over story with Tommy and Tracy. A little bit more of the Joseph Stalin story when he is going off to his Oak Hill. Oh, I'm glad that one does. Not enough Leanstitute this week. We only had it on the Monday episode. I was looking for a whole week worth of culty goodness, but I'm going to have to cultivate for this one.
I'm worried.
Why?
I'm worried that they want us to take this more seriously than it deserves.
Is this not going to be a comedy cult story?
It feels like it should be because of the jargon that they come out with.
I've got no idea. They haven't given us enough yet, have they, to really say one way or another, is this going to be a raising issues of serious effects of cults, or whether it's just going to be Leanne goes on a romp with Simon and they get her to some crazy stuff.
Download your uploads and make sure your algorithms.
Come on, next week let's have more of that, Corey. We also had a bit more of the Damon and Sarah and Harry story, and Harry's 8 apparently. He looks a bit younger than that.
Harry ate a cake.
Harry ate. He was like. Sarah just plonks the cake down
and sponge in his face.
It's like when he blew frog trotter he was. I bet you didn't have the whole thing, greedy pig. Right, so Terrorised, Gemma. Would you like to do the story? Would you like me to do this story? You do this story then. What has Mr. Cropper been up to this week?
Creepy Cropper.
Creepy
Cropper.
I couldn't remember.
Creepy Cropper.
All right, thank you. Shining reference.
Oh yeah, because I told you that.
No, I got that the other day. You said, "What's this? What's this?" And I said, "It's The Shining." Yes, I know a film. We went to see a film last week, didn't we? We went to see June 2.
June.
Kind of followed it, but it's a bit long. I keep meaning to. I needed to. Sorry, we'll talk about Corrie soon, but Corrie related. The last episode of Adam Hussein's latest podcast, it's also got Luca Toolan in there. We're talking about June 2, and I said that I'd listen to it when we've seen the film. I hadn't had a chance on my Nintendo podcast. It's been stacking up, but I will. Anyway. I
want to watch that Devil...
Yeah.
Late Night with the Devil.
We'll go and see that if you want. I want to see the new Ghostbusters, even though it's not doing so well on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm not paying to see that.
What was I going to say? No, I was going to say about this creepy cropper thing.
Cropper.
Yes, I don't remember whether that was a phrase that was actually used on Coronation Street before, because it's definitely been a phrase, hasn't it? Creepy cropper. Yeah. I just don't know whether, especially when they talk about how Roy was when he first came into it, and he was being a bit of a leery apartment dweller with Deirdre, and people used to refer to that kind of version of Roy as being a bit of a creepy cropper, but I don't know whether like Les used to ever call him that, but I did appreciate the call back to it, whatever it was they were calling him back when he was called it this week. But he's been having a bit of a time, hasn't he, Roy? Poor chap.
A cafe customer was listening with interest as Roy is telling Yasmin about his bail conditions, and then Roy gets a phone call from DD because the police want to talk to him later this afternoon, and this customer is earwigging, writes down the details about this.
Yeah, we're kind of getting... I don't think he had any dialogue at all that episode, but he was doing an awful lot.
Very menacing.
Yeah, to say, we'll keep an eye out for me.
Yeah, so Shona brings a paper into number 8. You always write the numbers, but I don't remember what any of these are.
I would hope that by the time we've been doing the podcast for quite so long...
No, I'm not memorising numbers of people's houses.
Well, where do you think that Shona's going to be bringing a paper
it's her house,
into? She
it?
only has 2 sets, doesn't she? Yeah.
I know, but not everybody... Like, we've been told before that people don't know who we're talking about
The Platt's
when we
house.
say the actors' names. And I totally understand that because I didn't when we first started doing it. I found it difficult to remember.
I definitely used to find the house numbers difficult when we
Well, they
first
don't
started. It took
lecture me then.
many, many years, but maybe I'm just kind of showing off my
Yeah.
finally
Number
my
8.
slowly
So
uncovered
just
knowledge about
if
who
you've
lives where
been
by
listening-
just throwing the numbers out there.
If you've been listening to me reading out these notes for years, going number 8, number 1, number whatever, just know I don't know what I'm saying either. Half the time. So she
I'm
goes
sure
into
that
her
everybody listens
house.
to the Conversation Street with a map of the street in front of them, like, you know, when we watched Game of Thrones and we had the little web of which
tree.
characters are related to who. Just
To
like,
do
who
that,
lives
it's
where
great.
on Coronation Street.
Right, so Lauren's on the front page. And also, everyone gets a free cup of coffee. It's nice, isn't it? It mentions the racists, which Max wishes they hadn't, because it makes her look like a wrong-un. You wait, Max, it gets worse towards the end of the week.
Yeah.
Nina and Bobby discuss holding a vigil for Lauren, and Roy says you need to organise it properly. And then David is also getting suspicious because Bobby asks him where Max is, but Max said to David that he was going to sort something out. You've written to see Lauren, but Lauren's probably dead.
I don't remember who he said
Max-
he was going to
Max
say.
told-
Sabrina, maybe?
Max told
Let's say
David
Sabrina.
something else, and so Bobby should know where he
Yeah.
is. But where's Max? He's gone to the prison to visit Reese. Reese is Lauren's dad.
Yeah.
He's the white supremacist.
He's had an haircut since we saw him.
Yes.
That's what they all go up to in the prisons. Max went into prison with old floppy locks, didn't he? And he came back with a shaved head.
I thought they shaved everything off you in case you get lice.
Oh, maybe that's what's happened then. He did have a bit of a dangly one, didn't he, old Reese? But it's good to see him
I
again.
think you probably want to get your hair cut in case they use it to bang your head against the wall.
Yeah, they could, couldn't they?
Yeah.
I thought that it was, I'm thinking there must be a reason for him to have come back. It can't have just been that. It makes sense. It always makes sense for the extended families of characters who are having drama to appear on Coronation Street, as we saw with Violet's return this week. But you never can bank on it, can you?
No.
So the fact that they brought Reese back for this one scene is making me think,
Is he going to be in more scenes?
surely there's got
But
to be more.
Not necessarily, because we've seen
yeah.
this happen before where
Yeah.
somebody just bobs in and out. So, Reese is annoyed because he's stopped Max. Max has stopped him from being able to see Lauren last year. And Max is asking him what he knows about Lauren's disappearance and what he's been told. And he says, I've been told that she might be dead. And Max promises they're doing all they can to try and find her. And he asks him some questions like, has she ever been missing like this before? And have you got any clues? And then he lets it slip that Roy's been taken in for questioning, but he's innocent. And Reese clearly didn't know that this was going on. I can't remember who I was asking who that.
What? No, he's...
Well, they're both asking each other, do you know anything?
No, Max is asking Reese, has Lauren ever been a runaway before?
Okay, yeah.
And then when he mentions that Roy's being held in for questioning, that gets Reese thinking, because he later on is setting his heavies on him, isn't he?
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
So Max comes back later and he tells Bobby how he used to look up to Reese and now he looks pathetic. Maybe he just really liked the hair. Maybe this whole thing could have been avoided if Reese had different hair.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, he's lost
Sad
all his
to think
power.
that,
He's like
isn't it?
Samson,
Yeah.
isn't he?
So in the cafe, there's some dodgy looking customers, and when the last person apart from those three leave, they get over, they close the door, put the close sign on it.
So you know it's going down.
They stand intimidatingly and at Roy and ask him what he knows about Lauren because they're mates of Reese. They start smashing things up, including plates. And Nick's coming along. I guess he's going to get his bacon sandwich. And he's like, Roy, are you in
for
there?
a run, just having a sneaky bacon sandwich.
Yeah, I'm going for a run, Leanne.
What's that? There's one going spare at Lauren's flat still.
Oh.
Just going to jog
There's
over
a bag
there.
of bread there as well.
Yeah, mouldy bag of... Oh, we didn't mention that on the podcast last week. They put something on Corey's social media last week or the week before, I can't remember, with how they made Lauren's mouldy bread.
I thought that was fascinating, actually. I thought that was great. They hand-painted every single slice.
Every spore.
Love it. They could have worked for The Last of Us, couldn't they, if they could at spores? Actually, they took that out of the show, didn't they? Anyway, so they're menacing and roughing Roy up to find out whether he knows anything. And Nick hears them. He asks if Roy's okay, but goes off. The men are trying to get Roy to confess whatever it is that they think he's done, which I assume is murdering Lauren. But he just carries on defending himself. And then Nick comes bursting through the back with Carla, and they see the guys off. And they're like, we'll see you around, threatening, this isn't over.
See, I didn't find this scene particularly work for me.
This could have not been in it, thanks.
We just only recently had Evelyn held, what was it, 2 months ago?
Yep.
And it was someone else who very kindly put the close sign on the door at the shop and then going to act all intimidated. But no, it's...
Don't need it, it's just superfluous. It's just soap magazine.
I thought that the vigil stuff worked a lot better when they were having a go at him. I don't know whether it was the actors just weren't particularly intimidating or it was just the same old.
Same thing over and over again. I said this before.
Anyway. And also the fact that that Roy's probably going to be all right.
Well, they're not going to build up an entire whodunit story or what happened story, and Roy's been falsely accused of doing something, only to have him murdered in a cafe before the story even goes anywhere.
Yeah.
So, that he's like calming down a little bit, but Nick mentions the police and he remembers he's late for his interview, so he leaps up and rushes off. Shona, meanwhile, is wondering how the guys know about the fact that Roy cleaned the flat, because that's one of the things that they mentioned, that he has been suspicious, and Bobby has an idea and he obviously thinks it was Max that's told him, which it was. Roy goes to the police station. I don't know what happened here. He was supposed to be there at 3.
Yeah.
The dodgy guys accosted him before that. He left for that.
Yeah, because he was listening in the cafe and he was like, I've got to be at the police station at 3. So I don't know how late Roy's got to, but the sun is setting by the time he arrives, and that's what,
obviously having a good
5-6 at the moment.
So how long were they menacing him for?
Really, really long menace, and that guy's been sitting there for the best part of 3 hours just reading the Weatherfield Gazette from cover to cover.
Yes.
Probably done the crossword and everything. But I don't think we were supposed to have thought that.
Which guy?
The dodgy guy.
Yeah, but he's not there, is he? He's gone.
He is there.
Was he still there?
He was totally there.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Naughty man.
He is. Look, he's taking photos.
What, of them menacing him?
No.
Oh, he's...
The cafe guy is at the station later.
Okay, I understand now. You mentioned that before I said this.
Oh, sorry.
So he turns up at the station and the guy from the start of the episode's there.
Yes. As I said.
Sitting in the waiting room. Nobody asked him what he's doing there. Do you think the policeman no, I just like company. I don't mind it if somebody sits. Swain says they're going to have to arrange another day to talk because, but for now she wants to take some details about the guys that roughed him up. Shona's found out from Bobby what Max has been up to, so she's fuming. She tells David about it, and that Reese has set his thugs on Roy, and Max is like, I feel really bad. So they make him go to the cafe to apologise, and Roy accepts that Max was just concerned for a friend, and then he tells Carla and Abby that Nina can't find out. So, that was just stupid as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, there were just a few things.
Don't tell Nina this thing she's going to find out in the next episode.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Keep it a secret. Nina's very fragile.
She comes in as they're talking about this. And they also continue this theme with don't tell Roy he's in the paper. You mustn't tell Roy that people are talking about him online. You mustn't tell Nina that somebody roughed Roy up. What? Come on.
How long have they lived on this street?
So
I did enjoy that Abby managed to get shoehorn herself into this story.
I've been invited to a story.
She's not had to do anything big and heroic yet, but she's there. Just on the sidelines waiting in a pink hoodie. Yeah.
So Roy wants to go to the vigil, but Nina's not sure that he should go. And she doesn't even know about the guys having a go at him. But he insists. On Wednesday, exactly 7 o'clock, he's getting ready to go for his walk with Freddie. And when he comes back, Carla's fretting about him with the thugs and saying he's putting himself in the line of fire. And he's like, calm down, which women love to hear. The conversation moves to the fact that some people have been disturbing the Bat Roost site.
Yeah, I think it was that some of the people who've been following him or interested in him or kind of trying to catch him out have been following him. And
they know that
they now know that he likes hanging around with bats.
Well, they know he goes to a remote area that's
and they've
creepy,
been disturbing it.
And
Those
they think,
poor soprano pipistrelles.
Oh my goodness! And leaving cans everywhere, and he's fretting because he's worried that the food source for these bats is going to be disturbed, so he wants to sort it out, and he decides to go there and come back in time to have his interview at the police station. Meanwhile, Daniel and Max butt heads in the street over Lauren's disappearance, with Daniel still fuming over Max dobbing him into the police. Things get really heated and Bethany's intervening, but she's being a bit useless, isn't she? She's like,
yeah, Bethany was also... She was on Daniel's side. She was having a go at Max as well. Yeah.
Because she's, their family, aren't they?
Yeah.
Are they related? No, not related.
Not blood related.
They're family in the Coronation Street sense, and that they all live in the same house.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
At one point. Roy tells Nina that Carla wants him to hide away, but he's not afraid of these people. And when she realises that he's not telling her about something, he has to confess about what happened yesterday. So she agrees to go with him to sort the bats out. And when they come back, Nina says that he shouldn't go to the vigil, but he's determined to go. And then Swain comes along and tells him that she needs to talk to him again because she's got some new information. And she's managed to access his text to Lauren. And interestingly, there are only a few weeks worth because his phone deletes them because it's so old. Do you remember the phones doing that?
No,
I'm not sure that I do.
Was that a thing? I'm not sure.
I'm surprised that phones, not old phones, but classic phones, I'm surprised they do that now.
Well, like I said, I don't think that Roy has actually got a Nokia 3210. He's probably just got one of the cheap old... Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway,
for the purposes of the plot, they've only just been able to access his texts to Lauren.
We've been trying to access your phone, Roy. You know this is a potato, don't you? I don't know what you've been using it for, but it's not sending messages. Anyway, she's accessed his text, and he apologises to her for the unpleasantness on the 25th of February.
Yeah, this is the text, isn't it? Apologising to Lauren, talking about the fact that he sacked her then.
Yeah.
But obviously, from Swain's point of view, who isn't an avid Coronation Street viewer, she thinks that it's something dodgy that's been going on.
And I can't remember what the dates were for when she disappeared.
You can't trust any dates that they say and try and find the Coropedia pages. When I was doing this Lauren catch-up podcast this week, I was going through all the Coropedia episodes and going, what happened on which date? And then it didn't correspond to what they talk about on the show, and it's because of the bloody football. So they say that whatever it is of February was the last time she was seen, but actually that's not the last time she was seen. So
you said you can't trust the dates on Coropedia, but you don't mean that.
No, sorry, you can't trust the dates on the show.
Yeah. Because
they reference when the episode should have been on.
Yes.
But yeah, this particular text was referencing the fact that sorry, I just had to sack you, but you should keep your hands out of other people's purses.
Corey desperately trying to establish some kind of timeline when there's no way to work it out from the absolute cluster F that was all the episodes going awry. So 25th of February, I don't know what that refers to. I don't know when that is to the timeline. As to when she disappeared and
I think that was the day. I think it was, yeah.
Swain digs how close he and Lauren really were, but obviously he's not going to confess because he didn't do it. And then he says, we know you were out at this place earlier with a spade.
She says that.
The bat place? What did I say?
You said he said.
He was out.
No, you said that he said, but it was she said.
Swain says he was out at the bat place earlier with a spade. Can you not see how dodgy that was? And he's like... What do you mean?
I was just redistributing the leaf litter so that the Sopranos Pipistrelle's food source would come out. It makes
could
perfect.
You try to be more weird?
I saw lots of people arguing back and forth about Roy's attitude through this episode, and some people were saying, no, this was completely full on Roy. Of course, he would just say it as it is. In his mind, he's innocent. He's got nothing to fear. He thinks that justice will out. This is just what I did. And other people are saying, no, I think that the writers have made him ham up his innocence or naivety a little bit too much. Or what did you think? Did it strike you as being or getting a bit too un-Roy-like, this and the vigil scene later?
It didn't strike me as completely out of character because he can act like this sometimes. I wonder if I don't think this is being portrayed necessarily in the show, but you can infer perhaps a sort of certain streak of stubbornness whereby he thinks I shouldn't have to change anything or do anything different than I normally would because I haven't done anything wrong. Yeah,
exactly. I don't think he does.
I don't think
and that's
he's
why
unaware.
He was saying, that's why he was saying, well, I will go to this visual because I want to go to this visual.
I don't think he's unaware of how it looks, but I also don't think that he thinks it's going to be negative as far as the police investigation goes, because I think he thinks they'll find out what actually did happen, and he knows it wasn't him.
Yeah.
There you go.
What
do you think?
No, I agree.
Well,
Are you talking to me?
It's you.
Oh. Yeah, no, I agree. There were bits of the vigil scene later where he was saying, "Oh, she's such a beautiful soul, a beautiful, amazing."
Yeah, that bit was a bit odd.
Yeah,
this bit was fine.
I don't think it was completely out of character for Roy, but it was obviously shoehorned in a little bit so that it could be taken advantage of by some amateur videographer later.
Coronation Street isn't trying to say, they've never gone on record, because I think it might be a bit of a mistake and write them into a corner, that Roy's neurodivergent or has, he's on the spectrum or autistic or has Asperger's syndrome or anything. They've given him a diagnosis, which I don't think that's unusual for somebody of his age anyway.
No, absolutely not. He could go and get it if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. He's kind of happy enough in himself, is he? And what use is a label to him these days?
But I also don't think it's unusual for somebody, even if you haven't got a diagnosis along those lines, to have a bit of a traumatic response to being confronted in the same way that he did, and perhaps not react in a way that makes you look like you didn't murder somebody. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think he just freaked out.
Yeah. Let's get to it.
So they have this vigil. Everyone's turned up with milkshakes.
You say everybody, but who really... This is one problem that I had with it, and it was very much the block filming kind of... the consequence of that. We had, Evelyn, was she there maybe? We had Nina, Bobby was obviously there, Max, Roy... I don't know if anybody else was there who was a character. It was very full, but it was full of nobodies. And...
Dare you? Yes, anyway.
As we get to Friday, it's clear that the rest of the street know who Lauren is and are interested somewhat in her disappearance.
They're like,
I would have thought that more people would go, if only to support Roy.
I would have thought Alia went.
Yeah.
Alia would have gone, because she's like, this isn't how you do a vigil. You need candles,
Maybe she
people
was
need
like,
to cry.
I remember. Alia is the vigil master, we all remember from Luke.
She was just jealous when they said they were going to do a vigil and she wasn't involved.
No, I thought she was. I'm sure she got a little scene.
She wasn't the main one, that's what she was.
She wasn't the star of the vigil, no. Because she couldn't hide her pregnant belly underneath anything out in the open.
I'll stand at the back of the crowd, thank you very much.
No, I just think that more people should have been there to support Roy.
Okay,
I don't think that they did care about Lauren, but, get Fizz or Tyrone or Chesney or...
Well, they had enough people. I think the trouble was, Michael, that there's, you're getting ahead of it, but there were characters that needed to intervene, and if everybody else on the street was there, it would have just turned into a massive riot.
I think it would have still worked better.
Okay, well, they would have had to have not said anything.
Felt a little,
and then you would have said, I'm surprised that Tyrone and Fizz didn't say anything. Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
My problem with it, because nothing Coronation Street sees is ever good enough, was that they were all crowded in a weird enclosed space. I thought when you picture a vigil, do you not picture sort of like a very big space with lots of people standing with like a little picture of the person and a candle in their hand looking sad?
I don't really consider the amount of floor space there is.
Why?
It's just underneath her flat.
Why would you hold a vigil where there's nowhere to stand? These people going, excuse me, can I get past? I want to buy a milkshake. You're really bumming me out. This is my special treat. I wanted a donut.
It was a nasty rainy day as well, so they had to huddle underneath the shops.
No, I just didn't like that. I didn't like that they were all clumped together in a place where you wouldn't
bother me whatsoever.
You wouldn't stand there. Well, you're wrong. Okay. So two blokes. So that I don't know who's leading this vigil, but two blokes start winding Roy up and then filming because he goes off on one about how special Lauren is and beautiful and what a great connection they had, and he's trying to defend himself, but he's just kind of making himself look like a proper weirdo perv. And Carla, Nina and Evelyn are trying to shut him up, and the blokes are continuing to wind him up, saying he definitely killed Lauren and calling him creepy cropper, and he's like, I refuse to be cowed by a mob. And then Dee Dee comes and says, you've really got to go home.
That's your lawyer.
I know, I'm surprised she didn't use the I'm a lawyer thing on everyone else. Like, I'm gonna...
What do they care?
We say, oh, if you carry on, I'll have you done for slander.
I guess so.
I mean, maybe you're not allowed to do empty threats when you're a lawyer. I don't know whether you could do that, but anyway.
I think she's more concerned about Roy's safety
I also
and
don't
well-being.
think that many
name.
many people would want to direct their ire towards them. So they go back to the cafe and everyone's telling Roy that he needs to back down, and other people are starting getting dragged into this, like Nina, and Roy admits he's sorry about it. And meanwhile, Daniel's storming around number 8, and we all remember that's where Shayna lives, to have it out with Max. And David tells him to do one, which was quite fun, wasn't it? Because Daniel's frothing at the mouth and David's like, get out, leave my son alone.
David's funny though, because he's so tiny. Max is, if he's not overtaken David yet, he's going to be close. And they're both there, like with Daniel towering over them. And Daniel's got a lot of buffer in the past few years as well, hasn't he? But David still, he still sees him off.
I feel like I could snap all 3 of them like twigs, but I know I couldn't.
I kind of didn't need all the Daniel stuff in this episode. I'm sure it must be leading somewhere, but every time that they cut to here's what Daniel's doing, I was a bit disappointed.
It just felt a bit like he's making too much of it. But then he does
He's just
get
jealous that after he had his interview at the middle of last week, he's gone and dropped from the story.
Doesn't he get fired though?
Yeah, he does get fired later in the episode.
So he's mad about that, but not yet. Carla's alone with Nina in the cafe, and Nina's panicking about how guilty Roy's making himself look. All these people are out to get him, and she starts crying, and then they throw a brick through the window just to sort of, percussion punctuation.
I thought that Nina was great. I thought that Molly Gallagher did a really good job. She's not had much of a chance to do much in the way of dramatic acting this week, and there wasn't,
What, this week?
No, sorry,
this year.
Not this year. Sorry. And when they had the brick come through the window, I thought, you did quite a good bit of reacting there, girl. Well done. I'm definitely buying that she's at the end of her tether. She's really, really worried about Roy, who doesn't seem to really get the severity of the situation he's in quite, and she just wants to keep him safe, and I thought that Molly did a good job of portraying that.
Yeah.
So well done, girl.
Swain and her silent partner are there. You know that TV show Silent Witness?
Yeah.
This is the sequel. They're doing some investigating, and there's only so much they can do with no witnesses. They're like, maybe the brick just spontaneously apparated.
I kind of missed what happened in today's episode. Did they say that they'd found the brick thrower in the end? I don't know.
I don't think so.
How
could you?
I thought they did.
Roy says it's fine.
Doesn't matter.
But you need to find Lauren, not worry about me. So Carla is a bit more of a nag when they go later to Roy about going to the vigil when he's told it was a bad idea, and he says, I am seeking truth and justice. I can cope with whatever people are throwing at me. I mean, not literally.
Not if it's a
because
brick.
if somebody threw a brick at you, it would hurt. Carla says Nina can't though. She's a bit fragile, isn't she? She may look like a goth, but we all know inside they're soft-hearted, kind people that don't like bricks being thrown at them.
Yeah, she's gone blonde. She's not a proper goth anyway.
Oh, I think you can be a blonde goth. Write in and let us know.
Are you one?
Are you a blonde goth? Email us conversationstreet@gmail.com. Tell us more. Daniel's moping later. Bethany's telling him it's going to be fine. It could be worse. Daniel doesn't think that he did it, that Roy did it, and he knows he didn't do it, but who did done it?
Who did do it?
And finally, we get to see Roy's flat.
I know, hooray. Everyone had been getting very worried about the fact that we've not seen Roy's flat for the best part of a year. It's like, to be fair, it probably does take quite a lot to pack that one away, and you got to commit to using it. But there's been so many times in the past 12 months or so that we've really needed Roy's flat to appear, and everyone's just been hanging around the cafe. Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder what was there instead of Roy's flat, because we've had Lauren's flat, but I don't think they got rid of that.
No, I think there's probably still more to come for that flat.
What about Ardy's flat?
I think they're all the same, aren't they?
No, they're not.
I don't
they're
know.
Not the same place.
But Roy's flat is a proper iconic set by this point, isn't it? It's been pretty much unchanged for the past 25 years. It's so interesting to look at. But all the stories they had, like with Evelyn moving in there last year, there's so many scenes that should have been up in that flat, and now they can. So let's hope they do. And as the story goes on, I suppose it is going to be more weeks of Roy being more isolated, and I don't know whether he's going to get too scared to go out of his flats. We might see a little bit of that perhaps, but they must have put it back together for some reason and not just for this one scene, which was fairly inconsequential.
Did Daniel not get fired in that episode? Because I thought he did.
Yeah, I think he did. I think they said he did. Did you miss it?
I
don't know.
Not read it out. It isn't written.
Oh well,
here.
Daniel's been fired from this school, his prison school.
That must have been why he went round and had to go at Max.
Yeah, I've got it in the notes somewhere. Yeah, look here. Daniel comes home later. He's been sacked. You missed it.
Well, you didn't notice I missed it.
Actually, there's all this stuff as well. Did you get the bit about the picture with
No, I think you moved it when I was talking.
Oh, well, there we go. We missed the bit where we talked about Roy being a meme with Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Plastered all
Killer
over
on
a
it
picture
on
with him and the
PX,
spade.
and Daniel gets fired, and then he goes and tells
Failure. What a rubbish podcast
Leave the notes alone then when I'm reading
helpful.
it. You're not though, are you? So Nina is upset, and Roy's trying to say it'll be fine, and they tell him you don't need to be involved in this because the police. No, he says I'm gonna take a step back.
Yeah.
And then Nina gets a message. She tries to hide it, but he wants to see it, and it's a video edit of him being called Creepy Cropper.
And there's a little dolly zoom with him at the end, didn't they? just to get in a little bit more of the funny editing that Corrie loves to do.
Evelyn on Friday sees there's an article on the front of the Gazette about Lauren saying that she's a sex worker. What does it say? Secret sex shame or something, or missing girl, something like that.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the beginning of the episode. They probably could have included a few more characters finding out about it, but the first few scenes with a few people reading this article and learning all about it, I thought it's nice when news spreads like that on the show.
Roy doesn't want to hear about it because he says the less I know the better. And then Bobby comes into the salon to talk to Max and shows him the articles, and he's confused. Why does the press know about this? And they wonder if it's just, public knowledge, or it's easy to find because it's, it's online.
Yeah, well, if Lauren has got an account, then it stands to reason that somebody might recognise this dead girl from their account and realise, no wonder she hasn't uploaded any videos recently.
Yeah. So,
but Bobby wonders whether it's Sabrina.
Max is like, no, I don't think so. But they meet up with her in the park. Sabrina's back. What, to be kicked out? I don't know. She says, I didn't tell anybody, and she's upset with Max for not defending her. Nina and Roy are cleaning up the cafe later. Nina says Swain came round earlier to say that the brick people had been found.
Yeah, I told
you. First crime that Weatherfield police have solved. Congratulations, everybody. No wonder she was so proud of herself.
It's because he's been putting about it on Twitter. The guy who played him, Joshua Chadwick is his name. Tell you what, he was very pleased about being on Coronation Street, wasn't he?
I would be.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I was really happy seeing how excited he was.
He was like, I've never seen a guest star on Corrie be so happy about being on it. He's like, look at me. And he showed it. And apparently they went through 4 panes of glass when they were filming that scene. I loved it.
But if you want to be invited back, don't throw a brick next time. So they say that, Swain has told them off. And Roy's sceptical that this is going to do anything. I think he's right, because there's plenty more of those horrible people. Bobby and Max come in and tell him about the Sabrina suspicions, and that anybody could have... Nina tells them that anyone could have seen her online and reported this to the papers, and they realise they might have jumped the gun. Sabrina comes round to number 8 and ends it with Max, and says, I don't know if she's going to ever come back. I hope so.
I think she... This can't be the end of Sabrina.
She's great. She's much better than Bobby.
She's narked at Max for...
Assuming
in the parks.
That she'd gone to the police.
But I'm going to say she still might have done. I just got a slight feeling that maybe she's feeling like this, or she's acting like this because she's been caught out. Because she was saying, wasn't she, via text last week, that the police should know about it. And I get that's probably why Max and Bobby suspected her. Well, it was mostly Bobby that suspected her, wasn't it? And Max has ended up just being carried along with it. So I feel particularly bad for him that he originally was wanting to stand by his girlfriend a bit more. But
Max is crying.
He has a bit of a with David, doesn't he? I just thought that it was a bit of possibly unnecessary drama, a little bit of end of episode, oh no, will this couple for the ages ever get back together again? And I think they will. I think they want to develop something with Max and Sabrina. She's got to have come into the show for more than just what little we've seen of her so far.
She came into the show to prove that Max wasn't racist anymore. Now she's done her job.
Now everybody
she can
believes
get lost.
her, yeah.
It's ridiculous, honestly. I can't believe also Max was more upset about the fact that they said that Lauren was a racist than he was about anything else. He seemed to be more upset about that than the fact she might be murdered or...
You don't want to become guilty by
but
association,
it's like, exactly. It's like, this makes us all look bad.
No, I think we will see Sabrina again. And Gav, hopefully. I mean, you see, I showed you this earlier. The actor who plays Gav, he's been on a cruise and he was in Southampton. We were breathing the same Southamptonian air as him earlier.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a nice day for him. But yeah, I think we will see more of her.
Not sure, but
maybe they're going to put her maybe in opposition. It would be interesting if Sabrina, I don't know, if she started being against Roy as well, possibly. I don't know. I was thinking of any way at all that we can get Sabrina more involved in this. Although the story is doing perfectly well without her. I mean, Roy could carry the story on his own. I even thought that Carla's inclusion on Wednesday wasn't strictly necessary.
No.
I do get a little bit fed up of her.
He's
mothering
my special
him.
friend, I know, yeah.
And she's got his best interests at heart, but I think if Roy wasn't such a placid man, he'd have probably told her to bog off by this point.
The trouble is about those two in their relationship is that it's entirely based around whatever trauma either one of them's going through at the time. They're either Roy's got Carla's, got his arm around Carla, or the other way around.
Yeah, you're right. He's either being a wise counsellor or an innocent victim, and
it's vice versa.
And Carla's fighting his corner.
But both of them are just lurch from one drama to the other and spend all their time giving wise advice to the...
Sometimes it does very much feel like, hey viewers, you like Roy and Carla together, don't you?
Aren't they odd together?
Aren't they a funny couple?
A lovely, sexy lady and a strange old man.
And it all came out of Hayley being held hostage in the factory by Tony Gordon
classic.
with Carla that one time, remember? I just almost don't need anybody else. David Neilson could honestly carry most of this by himself. Obviously, he needs somebody to talk to. They had the promo picture for this week, didn't they? Which was Roy looking all sad in the middle of the cafe.
I'm glum.
And
I'm a glum
it is all
boy.
about him. But I can't believe that he's been able to carry these stories. It's great that he can, but the guy's 75 now, David Neilson, and he's been given, the lion's share of this mega meaty story. He's just knocking it out of the park with not a line wasted. He does everything spot on every time, and he's been in the game long enough that of course he should. But we are so lucky to have somebody as with David Neilson's caliber in the show.
I don't agree with it.
What?
No, I don't agree with it.
What don't you agree with? You think it's real teens all the time?
Working when you're 75 and making everyone else have to work when we're already in trouble with when we're going to retire. When are we going to be able to retire? They'll be like, David Neilson can do it. You're going to have to work till you're 75.
And Maureen Lipman.
Exactly.
Both of those
I don't want to be working when I'm 75. I want to be having a nap.
It's making me wonder, obviously at the moment, Ken Barlow and Rita, and that's probably it for the proper oldies, isn't it? And Audrey, I suppose, as well. They've clearly had a much reduced episode count, and it's making me wonder, when did that start for Ken? At some point, Roy's only going to appear in a handful of episodes the way that Ken does, and it makes me kind of sad. So I'm just taking every episode, every scene, every story that Roy's being given and just savouring it at the moment.
Could this be his exit? Could this be his retirement?
It won't be, will it?
Because he actually done it.
Eventually, and it's just so sad to think about. We're going to have Roy's last big story. But if this is it, and it does dominate... No, I just think, I don't know. I worry about these things. I
know. Well, you don't talk about things made up to worry about, for goodness sake.
So if you were one of Roy's many supporters and friends, would you recommend that he hides away at this point, or would you tell him to... Well, I definitely
tell the other friends to stop showing him stuff that he doesn't need to see. You do that to me. Oh, look at this horrible review where somebody says you're a sanctimonious cow. Thanks, Michael. That's great. I really enjoy reading that.
And it sticks with you, doesn't it? Because that was quite a long
Reading stuff about yourself on the internet... Yes. Reading stuff about yourself on the internet is never fun, but I would imagine more so when you're being accused of murder.
Yeah, and if he hasn't got a smartphone, it is for a reason.
Yeah, don't tell him. Yeah, I would say don't go around
Engage
Don't go
him in a
around
game
with a
of
shovel.
chess or something.
Imagine what a guilty person would do. Do the opposite.
He's clever in many ways, but he does walk
Not
into...
wise in the ways of the world. I want to just talk quickly about Lauren, how she is possibly the world's most unlikable murder victim. Poor girl, I feel really bad. You know how when somebody gets killed, they always say, oh, she lit up a room? She's the first murder victim that everyone, once she's dead, they're like, well, she was a trollop.
She was a bit miserable, wasn't she?
First of all, you know, she gets outed as a white supremacist on Monday, and then on Friday she gets outed as being a sex worker. It's like they want her to be dead. It's like if she has been kidnapped, do you think the person who kidnapped her is reading all this stuff going, I don't think I'm going to keep you alive, actually?
I wonder whether, presuming that she's alive, is she able to access any of this that's going on? You know, is she locked up in a room somewhere, or can she see herself on the news? Is she getting the papers and going,
well, she won't like it, will she? That's the only.
I need to go and fight my corner and say they're not all bad.
That's the only good thing about being a kidnapper / murder victim is people have to say nice things about you. And it's not even saying nice things about her.
Tell you what, Ryan has been very conspicuous by his absence, considering that they were flatmates for a bit, and I know they didn't. I can't remember whether they parted
You'd
on
think
bad
he would
terms,
feel
but...
somewhat guilty about the fact that he introduced her to Ovid's, and now people are linking that to her disappearance.
Yeah, we got a little bit, I suppose it was more in the Evelyn storyline of Daisy talking about the whole sharing your body on social media thing. She had that argument with Evelyn. But yeah, Ryan, I don't think he was needed whatsoever. There's some characters that I think they probably would be there, but I didn't need to see them, and other ones that I don't know. But yeah, I think that it's been...
One week.
It's been good. I think that I've seen some people wondering whether Craig should maybe get in there and tell Swain. It wasn't him though, was it? Because you don't know Roy like I do.
Who's that?
Craig.
No, I don't think you can really ever know.
You can though, if you know Roy.
No, I don't think so. I think that's a dangerous thing to think. Just saying. Do not think that people have dark secrets.
I suppose it's different for us.
We know Roy didn't do it because we know that he didn't. Like, we would have, the way he's acted and what we've seen him privately reacting in a way that you wouldn't react if you'd done it. But really,
that's the same with Bobby. Because he was another name that was thrown in the ring as a, you know, does he protest too much sort of thing.
I think.
And we've seen him start to privately be...
Act in a way that you wouldn't act if you, like, draw attention to things that you wouldn't if you were actually innocent. Yeah. So.
Speaking of dodgy reactions, though, you didn't see this, and I convinced you that I said, look at the end of Bethany, at the end of this scene with Daniel. Don't you think that she's given a bit of a funny look? And I can't remember what it was they were talking about, but it was... It was when Daniel was saying, you know, I don't think that Roy did this, and he didn't say, but who did? But he was kind of going down that way. And Bethany did give a funny look, and I rewound it, and you were like, no, it's nothing. But people online are saying this as well, and they're saying that Bethany had a reaction like she knows something.
About there. What was being said?
About who killed Lauren, the hot topic of the...
specifically, Michael, what was said that made her react?
It was basically saying, I don't think it was Roy, I wonder who did it. It was along those lines, anyway.
That's why I asked you specifically. Don't have to be a dick about it.
Okay, I'm not. But it kind of basically, to me, means either she did it...
No, of course she didn't.
Or... I think, and that's what people are...
Yes.
There seems to be the discourse. Does Bethany know more than she let on? But I think it's more a case that she's worried that it was the far-right people who she got in touch with. And
that's
she's
why
thinking
I asked you specifically what it was that she said.
Okay. It feels like it would make sense. It would be natural if you got these bunch of racists on the telephone and was like, oh, Lauren, you know Lauren, she gave me your number, is that okay? I want to talk about you and maybe just show you up as a bunch of far-righters in Chit Chat magazine. You're cool with that? Wouldn't surprise me if that I thought, well, maybe now Lauren's got murdered, it was probably them that did it, and maybe it was my fault. Yeah,
or maybe she's written an article that hasn't been printed yet, and she was guilty about that.
Do you reckon?
Well, she didn't.
What sort of article?
who killed Lauren. Maybe she listened to our podcast. She was like, I wrote this down. So it's my idea. They're not going to know.
Okay, so yeah, good stuff.
Next.
Quality mystery, quality
Love
performances. Didn't go so much on those two guys threatening Roy in the cafe, but I suppose it was important in a way in that it made Nina more concerned about Roy's safety. But I wasn't sad that the story took a bit of a break on Friday's episode as much as I was enjoying it, because it was replaced with some equally fun stuff as well.
I don't know whether
not fun, but
I know people keep saying this story's wasted on Lauren as a character, but it really would be interesting to know how different it would be if it was a character that we really cared about.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I can enjoy it more because I'm not like, but what happened?
What if... I'm not thinking, what if she's dead? I really hope that's not... Like, if it was, say, I don't know, Shona who'd gone missing, I'd be really worried that she was going to get bumped off. But at the moment, I'm thinking, what if she's murdered?
Yeah, I don't really care one way or the other.
No.
I think if she does come back, I would be happy for the actress, and I'd be looking forward to seeing what they do with Lauren, because I think it might be a really good turning point for her. And I might suggest they do the same to Bobby.
Yeah.
Just kidnap him, rough him up a bit.
See if she can come back a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Right, so the Carapole karaoke this week. I'll tell you what, Paul's not going to be recording any podcasts anytime soon, is he?
No.
Hey? His voice is going this week.
Well, you could just do what I do, which is just have a series of soundboards. I just press buttons. I don't actually...
I prefer the old summer.
Isn't actually me saying anything. I'm just AI generated.
So, yeah, Paul can't really speak much this week. Well, he can, but he's starting to get a little bit more slurred. And I wish...
He can't tell, which is interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I guess this happens.
That you can't notice yourself when your voice changes. And it wasn't, it wasn't a slight slur, was it?
Can we give a big shout out here to
Peter Ash?
Peter Ash doing a really amazing job on the physicality of his role with this.
I thought so too.
Because he's not over-egging it, so he's doing a very subtle work with this.
It's definitely the sort of thing where you think, if I get this wrong, I could look like I was making fun of people who were losing
incredibly dicey ground.
But it came across to me. I mean, I've never met anybody who's been through what he's been through. Yeah, he's
done a lot of work with the charities and spoken to people who are going through this. So
he's having to do so much.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the emotional toll this takes? Because you're working with people that are going through this, and you feel responsible for telling their story. You're working with Daniel Brocklebank, whose grandfather had it, and so there's a lot of responsibility there to get it right. Some of the people that you're speaking to die in the process of you working with them on it, and you also, I'm sure, I don't know how much gets through to him, or whether anybody's intercepting him, I don't know, but you're getting letters and messages from people who are saying, this is happening to me, thank you for what you're doing. And
it's
you're also living with this character that you are very close to. A lot of the actors feel very protective of their characters and like them and things, and so a part of you's dying as well, and this must be very difficult. Very difficult work, and he's doing such an amazing job.
We were wondering how long ago was it that you got his diagnosis? Was it about springtime last year, maybe? Or at least that's when we found out that the story was going down that route, and we were wondering how far will they take his physical degradation? Degradation. What did I say? Wasting away. And they've clearly not done that. They've not been able to. And we've been seeing, the MND adverts that they've put on the TV for the MND Association, and seeing some people with the condition there. Like, there's no way that they could show that way. But everything else that Peter's doing, from it started off with a dodgy hand to the limp, and now his voice is going. It's such a good performance. I'm you know, I can't praise him enough for this. But yeah, this week it's his voice going, and I presume it means, you know, this is how he's going to have to play the role until the end, isn't it? Because it's not like one day your voice is a bit slurred, the next week it's fine again. Although, I don't know, they also had that thing, and this is probably going back 3 or 4 months now. Do you remember when he struggled to eat and he was choking and coughing when he was trying to have his food there sometime? And we've not seen how that's been really an issue since then. So I don't know whether it's another case of good days, bad days. But it's feeling more this week, more so than ever, that the end is nigh. Are you getting that?
You say that every time something happens on this.
What do you think this time, though?
No, not really.
Especially with Summer potentially now going off to America for a bit.
Can't believe it. Go on, let's say.
But anyway, so he can't really speak too well, but I tell you who can.
He can speak fine. He's just slurring every now and then.
Yeah, but it's there all the time. But he's definitely intelligible, but you know, it's just. Yeah, it's starting. But he can't speak very well, but his new PA, Hannah, certainly can. What's going on with his PAs? Is it just a way of like getting a little bit of an intern role as a on Coronation Street? As like, oh, do you want to be a character for a few weeks and care for Paul? We'll maybe set you up as a bit of a storyline and then ship you off.
Isn't it supposed to represent how difficult it is to find somebody, or how, you know, how the staffing is?
I don't know, because they were going to...
What are you confused about, darling?
Just why didn't they keep Moses? And I really like Hannah this week.
And why. This is one of the issues that people who are going through this face, though, that.
But Moses was reported, wasn't he? For getting...
And then he
getting too close and he went off to London? I can't even remember now, because I said it was too long since the story was last on it. But I was really expecting him to stay the long haul and for this relationship with Todd to develop more. And at the end, it came to nothing. And I don't think there's any guarantee that he's going to be back.
No, I don't think so either. I don't find this as astonishing as you do, that the carers are under so much pressure, and there's a lot of staffing issues and funding problems, that you don't get the same person, and the people that you see changes very often. I don't find that astonishing at all.
I can't remember why they said that Jim couldn't come back. Had he...
Well, apparently, according to you, it's because he murdered...
Oh, yeah, apart from that, obviously. I think they gave a reason that made it sound like he was going to be out of action for a few months. So
he's back, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. But
it doesn't matter.
I enjoyed... Did you like Hannah? Or did you find her...
I liked to jump her on Friday.
She was a bit of a verbal diarrhea, wasn't she? She just couldn't shut up.
The actress was really good at putting on that voice that people put on for you when they're a nurse or a doctor or a carer, where they're like...
She was nice and peppy.
No, I mean, but this is my voice where I'm talking to you in an authoritative way, but also it's not very personal, but it's very caring. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Teachers use that voice as well.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So she kind of is noticing that Paul's not completely clear in what he's saying, and she kind of is asking him. No, and she's asking him to repeat himself a bit, but Paul doesn't get why. Billy turns up, doesn't he? And he hears it. And I think this is the first time that he's noticed that Paul's voice has gone like this. And he kind of dilly-dallies around, well, what do I do? What do I say? And eventually on Friday's episode, after having had a little bit of a cry with some of the previous episode, he says to Hannah, look, can you not mention to Paul that his voice is going? Not until we've been to the therapist, at least, the speech therapist, because his idea, was it something like he wants to tell Paul in front of the speech therapist so that he can say it in the right way? Was that it?
He wants the speech therapist to be, to help him.
He wants him to be present so that he can
break it to him there.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out obviously that doesn't quite go the way that he's planned. But the subject of Summer and her trip to America comes up when she's in the cafe later. I've forgotten about what had happened here. America's probably they're probably waiting there at the airport, kind of looking at their watch. Is she coming?
And there's a sign that
Invited
says
her a month and
"Welcome
a half
Summer,"
ago.
and it's only becoming more relevant as the months march on.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Nina is saying, "Oh, I think you should probably go," and Summer's like, "Oh, I don't know what I should do."
I thought she decided not to go. That's why I got confused. But
she couldn't. She wants to go because it's a great opportunity, but she doesn't want to be there when Paul, she doesn't want to come back and Paul not. It's kind of similar to the whole Bernie in prison dilemma, wasn't it? And I don't know whether it's going to turn out to be just as pointless as that was, because she went in prison and she's been back for... When did she come back? Was it the beginning of the year? Yeah. Not that we've seen her at all this week.
She might as well stay in
prison. Might as well. But the fact that she went into prison and then came back and Paul was pretty much exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering whether that's going to be the same as Summer. I don't know. But anyway, Billy is rushing home from the shop later. He desperately doesn't want Hannah to be there with Paul on her own, because he's worried that she's going to say something. And Summer,
I found this a bit mind-boggling, and it didn't really. This must be true. This must be something that happened, but I found it difficult to come to terms with the fact that you could keep the fact that Paul's speech is being slurred from Paul himself and that he didn't notice. It's clearly something that happens. But it just seemed very weird to me that they were trying to hide something that felt obvious.
I think that there's, for months now, people have been somewhat critical. Some viewers have been somewhat critical of Billy and his overbearing attitude and wanting to be, in control. But I totally sympathise with him here. And who'd want to be in a situation like this? What's the right thing? There's no right or wrong way to act in this. But he says, look, to Summer, she can tell there's something wrong with him, and he ends up confessing about Paul wanting to end his own life, and that's why he's finding this all so difficult, and he don't know what day it is.
That's why Billy doesn't want to admit to Paul, because he feels it will usher the end.
Yes, it was that, wasn't it? Yeah, if he says to Paul, sorry, you're on the way out, and Paul's gonna maybe take that as a sign, maybe now's the time to go.
Yeah.
Summer's clearly distraught by this. She tries to hide the tears when Paul and Hannah come back, but Paul's really slurring away and saying, "Oh, let's go to the karaoke tonight at the Rovers. That's going to be great." And Summer can't hold it in anymore. And she says, "Look, Hannah, can we have a bit of privacy? Paul, when were you going to tell me about ending your life?" And Paul's clearly narked at Billy for blabbing his little secret. "Why did you tell her for? To stop her going to America?" And Billy's like, No, honestly, it wasn't to do with that." Billy just can't cope, and he's got... I know that there seems to be there's quite a few people at the moment that know that Paul wants to do this. Like Kevin knows, doesn't he? Abby knows. Bernie knows. But at the end of the day, Billy has been fairly on his own and keeping this massive, massive secret. And he says, "Look, I just had to." And Summer's like, "Well, anyway, I'm definitely not going to America now." And Paul's like, No, you got to go to America. Don't stay because of me, which obviously you would have to say. So we get to see the karaoke scene later. Love a bit of Rovers karaoke.
Jack Shepherd entertaining the nation.
Yeah, with a bit of bop. Thank you very
classic.
much for that one. That is a classic. We got a rotation of songs in the car, haven't we? And Bop does come on sometimes.
I remember the first time
like to belt
I heard that song. I went to school. I was like, "Oh, have you heard this song by that boy and his two sisters?" And they were like, "No."
I think that was kind of in an era when I was like, Spice Girls are everything, and anyone who even came close to taking the Spice Girls pop crown, I wasn't happy with. But I think as I grew to not care about that quite so much, Bop is a bop. So nice that they included it into the episode we were singing along to, and Jack P. Shepherd looked like he was having a good time singing along with it. So he's doing that one. And then it's Paul and Billy's turn, and they're singing "Stand By Me," and it's very sweet and lovely. And You could tell it sounded like Daniel Bockerbank was having to restrain himself from
like
just going, out the way, Peter Ash. Give me the mic. I can sing. Anyway, that's lovely. And Izzy's there filming it. And unfortunately for Billy, Paul wants to watch the video. And only then does he hear just how he sounds at the moment. And he's like, have I been sounding like this? I can barely even hear what I'm talking about. He's like, you didn't tell me about this. You fessed up to Summer about me wanting to end my own life. What the hell, Billy? Why are you controlling my life? It's these kind of things. I need to be told what's going on with me. You shouldn't be the one that's hiding things from me. I know my own mind. Stop trying to, micromanage every aspect of my life. And he goes and has a bit of a strop out to the smoking shelter. And then ends up back in the flat with Gemma later, just basically bemoaning the fact that his body's packing up. And he's like, oh, my voice going is the worst thing of all. That's me. If I can't speak, I can't really be myself. And then they bring up this little, what was it? Was it a speaking book that he's using? I can't remember. A little voice pad thingamybobby. And Gemma's saying, well, what about this little gizmo? And he's like, well, that can only get me so far. I've kind of got out of the habit of recording things onto it, and I'm rapidly running out of time too. So Gemma's like, we can do a few bits together. Let's think of all the hurdles that Alad's overcome with his deafness, and he can still communicate now, and you can use this, and it's all going to be great. So they agreed to give it another go, and then there was a little bit of a silly ad cliffhanger later where Billy and Summer come in to the flat, and they're waiting outside the door, and they can overhear Paul basically saying his final goodbyes to Billy that he's recording into the book, and Billy and Paul Summer walk burst and going, no, don't do it, because I think that he's about to top himself. But no, that he's just chilling on the sofa with Gemma, and it's all okay. And he says, I just didn't want to leave it until it was too late to record it, and then listen to a few of my clips that I've been recording. And Billy's kind of chuckling along, and he realizes that it's not as bad as he thought it was. And eventually Gemma goes, and it's just the two of them there, and Billy starts opening up again about saying how on edge he is, and about how every time he goes to work or goes out, he thinks he's going to come back and Paul's going to have taken the pills, and
he just can't live he's constantly worried
that every day could be the last day.
I don't know why he's got it in his head that Paul's going to wait for him not to be there to do it, but he has, and he can't get over it. But I think that Paul manages to convince him. But then Summer
turns up, and they talk about America, and she decides to go, and he's like, I promise I won't check out while you're gone.
I know, but the one flaw in this plan is that they've all forgotten that MND kills you. Like, it's not necessarily Paul's decision. It might end up that it's taken out of his hands, and he keeps saying, I'm gonna choose when I go, but it might not be that easy. I mean, that would be easy.
I mean, he's
just saying, I'm not gonna do it when you're not here.
Although the voice is going, he doesn't appear to be, as close to the end as Shelley clearly was.
I don't know how it works either. I don't know whether you can suddenly drop off a cliff. Does it could it accelerate? I don't know.
I don't know how true to life every single aspect of this story is, but it seems like what we've seen from Paul is that one day he can't swallow very well. One day he can't speak very well as he loses control of certain muscles in his body, and there are some muscles in your body that are a lot more important than other ones for keeping you alive.
So he says, I won't check out while you're gone.
But they also say, you just be the other side of the Atlantic, you can come back straight away if you need to. And then there's this final scene where they're having a snuggle on the sofa, Paul and Billy, and they've got Oh Happy Day on, which I'd forgotten was their wedding song, but you pointed it out to me, didn't you? And Paul says, this reminds me of the best day of my life. And tell you what we'll do, if we get to the stage where I can't verbally say I want this to be the last day, I'm going to put this music on. Clearly not going to turn it on with Alexa. And then that'll be my sign.
Can I point out two very big problems with that?
Go for it. He needs to know now.
It means you can't listen to this without the possibility of Billy killing you.
Yeah, that's true. I just really fancy listening to Oh Happy Day, and he's there relaxing on the sofa with it, and Billy comes up behind him with a knife. Element of surprise.
That's something to consider. And also, now you've ruined the song for Billy. That was their happy wedding song. And now Paul's like, this is my death song, Billy. So whenever Billy hears this song now, he's going to cry.
Yeah, I mean, they
Why don't they pick a crap song that he doesn't like Friday by Rebecca Black? Odd choice. They try to kind of cushion it with like Paul saying, you know, it's going to be the happiest day because I'm going to go and be with my maker. The way it was written was very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the long term, you know, Billy's got to live on after Paul's gone, and maybe
he's going to be watching the wedding videos, isn't he?
Maybe he secretly hates the song and he's like, I'm not bothered. I can't ruin it because I hate it already. What song would be your hated death song that you could...
I don't know. Angels by Robbie Williams.
Oh yeah, you don't like that one, do you?
I don't know. I just hate Robbie Williams, and that seems quite apt as a death song as well, I suppose. Doesn't it?
Yeah, it was the thing to have, wasn't it?
So I haven't put a whole lot of thought into what Paul's final episode is going to be like, but now we've got this little piece to the puzzle. It's starting to maybe become a bit clearer in my mind. I could almost see like there being an episode where it starts off where Billy wakes up in his bed. They've got a bedroom set that they built for this, and he turns over and Paul's not there in the bed. He's like, "Oh, where's Paul?" And then then the strains of "Oh Happy Day" start playing, and
we're all crying.
I think for Paul's final episode, it needs to be completely dedicated to Paul. I don't want it to be other stories. I know you hate that kind of thing. You didn't watch it with Sinead, but honestly, Sinead's final episode was so well done. And this has been a super storyline, and I hope that you are able to make it to the last one, as sad as it will be. But I hope it will be positive as well, because this episode, I thought that they just about got the balance of the lark and the dark and the light. The lark and the light. The dark and the light. Because when it was like karaoke, I was like, oh, brilliant, there's going to be some lovely karaoke bits here, and it's going to be a really powerful episode, and there's not going to be a dry eye in the house. And it didn't really get that far, because before long, Paul starts getting knocked off at Billy for not telling him about the voice, and I was like, oh no, it's going to turn into them having an argument, and that spoiled it a little bit. But hopefully they'll be able to save it by the end, and they did. So it was a real roller coaster of an episode, this one, for me. And although it's not up there with the very best Billy and Paul moments through this, so obviously the bathroom scene is going to be a hard one to top, I thought that they did a pretty good job. What about you? How did you find the emotion of it? Did it pluck those heartstrings of yours?
I was feeling a bit like I'm not having this. This is Friday. I don't want to be set up for the weekend with this. At one point, but then they managed to. They always manage to turn it around, which I was worried about. Yeah, you're right. They always do, but I was worried.
They always manage to make it kind of nice in the end, which is what they're going for with this story. And I know that's not right for everybody. But for us who've seen so many solely tragic Corrie death stories, this is what's making it palatable for us. The love, the gentle comedy they're having in there, David singing and bop along while Paul's worried that he's losing what's making him him. It was just right for me. I loved it.
Are we looking forward to the episode where the last the last sort of few minutes is "Oh happy day, oh happy day"? I
think it will.
I think they might have to not have music at the credits. I think that would be a good choice, because I don't think Happy Day and the outro works together.
But it's okay, because Oh Happy Day is what's signalling to Billy that he wants to do it. It's not like you have to play this on loop throughout the day, unless Billy's like, right, there's the music, down the hatch, Paul, and you're dead. We've only got 3 minutes to get this done. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be like that. Well, we'll see. What do you think about the fact that Summer's going?
Oh, what a stupid idea. This is the dumbest thing. She can't be this awful.
It's a great opportunity for her.
It's really not. Nobody, I'm sorry, Boston Common University. Nobody's that bothered about it. Never heard of it. I don't even know if it's a real place. I think it's fake. Nobody's looking on your CV to see whether you went for a semester to an American university. No one cares about it. Why are you going? Why can't you just write to them and go, look, my stepdad's got MND and he's dying. Can I come afterwards?
It just feels like you're literally... But because even when Billy was saying to her, oh, if things start to take a turn for the worse, you can just get on a plane and then you can be back the next day. So literally, they're committing to... You probably
never see you again.
Yeah, you'll see him one more time, and that'll be the day he dies. So
yeah, that's all right then.
Anything you want to say to him, you probably better say it now because you don't know whether he's going to be able to.
He won't be able to talk to you on the phone.
No. Yeah, that's the other thing as well.
The dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life.
Especially after we had the whole story with Bernie going into prison and, every second that I spend with you is precious and now I'm going to be taken away from you for 6 weeks. Summer is voluntarily going over to a different country.
I'm not bashing anybody who's in real life ever had to face this decision because it would be very difficult, but this is a very, very specific situation in which he was given 6 months to a year to live 6 months ago.
I don't know when it was, but it feels like he's running
out of time, and he's not. This just seems bonkers and heartless.
Well, we said that it was going to be Britain's Got Talent week, maybe that he ends up checking out, and they're going to be filming that quite soon, aren't they?
It's not just being
so
selfish.
Keep an eye out on Peter Ash's Instagram his Twitter if you don't want to be spoiled for that.
It's not at all that I think, I'm not sort of accusing her of being selfish or whatever. It's just I genuinely cannot imagine if I was in her position.
No.
Being able to go and not think every second of every day, I shouldn't be here. I should be with Paul. I can't know. How would you do it? I could never do this to anybody.
No.
By then, no.
But equally, if she doesn't go, Paul is going to be feeling guilty every time he sees her. She should be over there. And does she want him to be feeling that?
This is where you employ the white lie. And I know that this would, in real life, in Corrie, they'd find out and then they'd be sad and there'd be a fallout. But you would just say, I spoke to them and they said I can defer for a year.
Yeah. You're right. She should.
It would be the kindest thing to do. And if they're not willing to defer for a year, I wouldn't go anyway, because what a scumbag thing to do to somebody. If you say, look, I can't come because my stepdad's dying, they would, and they went, well, sorry, it's a one-time offer.
Yeah.
Well, stuff off then.
But I'm gonna say, as a viewer, this is very convenient because already Summer, I feel, has she's had a real back seat in this story. It's been all about Billy and Paul and a bit of Bernie, I suppose, as the next character down. We've got a few, sideliners like David, who is nice to see him being used a little bit more now. But it feels like Summer's just been on the periphery far more than she should have done, and sending her over to America for X number of months is a good reason that we're not going to be asking, where's Summer now?
Well, this is why I'm kind of, it's the same thing about, like you were saying, about Roy's story. Like, do we really need Carla in this? Like, how many confidants does he need, really? He's got Evelyn now as well. That's why I said when you were complaining about the vigil and not enough people being there, there's only so many characters that have got a close relationship that you need in a scene.
No, I still feel that more people should have been there for Roy, and they wouldn't have had to even done anything.
It's the biggest debate of the week.
Yeah, now we're going to be able to see just Billy and Paul take centre stage. Summer's not going to need to be there. The question is, of course, is she going to get back in time, or are we going to have an Audrey Roberts getting to Alma's bedside just a bit too late situation?
Because then it will taint the whole experience as well. You will never look back on your time at Boston Common with great fondness, because you'll be thinking, oh yeah, that's what I was when Paul died, being a selfish arse.
I'd probably like the drama of her not being able to get there in time, but I think that if she didn't, we wouldn't hear the end of it for a good few weeks or months afterwards. And then rather than the drama focusing on Paul and Bernie's grief
Billy and
Billy. Yeah, Paul's going to be quite sad. He's going to be dead as well. Billy and Bernie's grief. It's going to be about Summer going, oh, I should have never have been there, and it'd feel like it'd be more about her. So I think
it's not Alia.
If I was her mate, I'd say, what the hell are you doing going? But as a viewer, I'm saying, yeah, get her out of the way. Folks, story's not about her anyway. Probably get her back just in time so she can have a nice final goodbye to him. So we'll see how.
I hope she likes gospel music.
We'll see how how they get on with that. So a Violet confrontation, Gemma, comes next. Over to you.
Oh, I wish it was Violet Carson.
No, not Violet Carson. They're not dug her
Almost as good. Violet's back. Remember the mum, Dylan's mum
of Dylan.
On Monday, Eileen reckons Violet should know what's going on, and Sean and Dylan disagree. But she says,
this is about the bullying, isn't it?
Yeah, and about the knife.
Yeah,
and the crime.
About everything. Dylan's been up to a bit of mischief recently, and Violet is completely ignorant about the whole thing.
She says the longer they leave it, the worse it's going to get. And later on, Sean still hasn't told Violet, and he tells Eileen he really doesn't want it to be a disappointment. He doesn't want Dylan to be a disappointment to his mum. I think it's more like you failed as a parent, to be honest. But
this is exactly it. Sean has had so many years as an absent father. And then the moment he gets the chance to look after him,
it's in prison.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
so not quite.
As much as I would say, yeah, Dylan, for transparency's sake, you probably should let Violet know. I completely sympathise with him being awkward, hesitant to do it and being to make it look like a failure. Yeah.
Dylan comes in and says, I've told her myself, I phoned her up, she wasn't happy with either of us, but she's on holiday in Tenerife, so she can't come. And Sean wonders whether he should phone Violet to kind of smooth things over, but he doesn't bother. So the next day, it's Dylan's court appearance, and Eileen's like, I can't believe that Violet hasn't shown up, her holiday's more important, and Sean's just wringing his hands and looking sad. And then when Dylan pleads guilty in court, Sean's like,
even though he said that he was going to do it
all along.
Again, felt so bad for Sean. Right until the last second, he was saying, say not guilty, say not guilty.
Didn't
he did do a very good dramatic gasp, didn't he?
Well, it turns out it was all right in the end anyway. They end up sweet enough. Both wanted to move on with their lives because he's just been given community service.
He should have stayed around a bit longer. If he wanted some proper drama, he'd have been in the middle of the vigil if he'd stayed there and had a second milkshake.
It'd been nice seats to watch all the action.
It was.
Dinner and a show.
Yeah.
They get home and guess who's there? It's Violet.
What?
She's furious because it turned out Dylan lied that she was abroad and he lied about talking to her.
I can't remember what she said about how she found out. Did she read it somewhere?
Maybe she read it in the court circulars. Maybe she was she was taking the notes. Anyway, wasn't it Eileen that told her?
I don't know. Honestly,
she's like, I can't believe this. You two, the pair of you, keeping this from me for months. Then she has to go at Sean, just them two together, and she says, I can't believe this, how bad this has got. She was not like this in London. Why don't you tell me any
He was a victim of bullying in London. What have you turned him into?
What would you rather if you were a parent, though?
I'm going to take him right back down to London to make him a victim again. See how he likes that.
Well, she wants to take him back before things get any worse, and he doesn't want to go. But Violet's like, I don't care, you're not getting a choice, you're coming back with me, Dylan. Sean's upset, but he says, okay, if that's what you want, Violet. And Dylan says, I've got community service. And Violet says, conveniently, without your knowledge, I've been very busy and I've moved your community service.
It was a little bit explained away, wasn't it?
And I've sorted out some kind of special scheme whereby you can do your GCSEs or something like that. So
she just says that I've been able to get you back into your school in London.
She said there's some kind of bridging thing. She sorted it out.
It's a managed move.
Oh,
that's what it's called. It's just when you go to another school. We've
What the hell do you need to call it that for?
We got names for
Makes
everything.
it sound like there's another way of changing schools, which is literally you throw the child through a window like a brick, and that everyone has to just get them a spelling book.
It is, I suppose, a bit of a special scheme. I can't remember the full details of it, but I had heard.
Nonsense.
I had heard that when she.
Okay,
so they've done their research.
They drive off again, and Sean does another "my son" as they're leaving, and Eileen's like, well, you don't have to move out now, so that's good.
Every cloud says Eileen.
Couldn't believe this. Eileen is such a heartless cow.
No, what
and
do you
also
mean?
Eileen, like Sean was like, oh well, okay, well, yeah, rough and smooth. Well, Eileen, honestly, come on, love. I know that. No, I'm not going to take it back.
She's a jocular kind of character.
I'm not going to take it back. She basically said to
sympathy.
Sean, I was only going to make your son homeless, not you.
Well, yeah, because the son was the one who had the zombie knife in the house.
Didn't. Literally, it was in the house for what?
I don't know how long.
She's acting as though, but
two.
she's acting like the knife has some kind of malicious intent of its own, like it's possessed by, like, just because you write on it, you write something on it. You write something on it, and somehow it becomes imbued with some kind of menacing spirit that will maraud around the house at night and kill you.
Yeah,
it's literally a knife.
But it's a criminal weapon. Yeah, it's illegal to possess these things.
The police weren't going to come in and arrest everybody in the house, were they? And if they are, then that's, stupid.
Well, yeah, but there is Tinker in there who's in charge.
Like she's never made a mistake.
Anyway,
she stole money.
I thought that I think that it was absolutely a callback.
I just don't think that you can claim the moral high ground by saying I was only going to kick your child out, not you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I loved the callback to Violet driving away with Dylan, didn't you? It was absolutely 100% a reference. It's got to have been.
Well, yeah, and it felt very strange because we literally only just watched that when we were doing the leap year.
Yeah, the 29th of February episode.
Patreon episode.
Yeah. So it's one of my favourite Sean moments ever when he's there in the middle of the street and Jamie and Violet are driving off. Opposite direction that time, weren't they? So this is to change it up a little bit. And Sean's like going, my son. And he's like, oh. And who was it? Lauren, Violet's sister, was there. And I almost...
where's Auntie Lauren?
I almost wish that Sean had said, like, oh, it's not again, or something like that. But
I wish he'd referenced it. Yeah. How would you forget that? It was
You're
really
taking
traumatic.
my son away from me again. Because she kind of was, and he
Didn't
was
he say
bowing...
something like that?
I don't know, did he? But I don't know, was he bowing down to her a little bit too quickly? Why? Who's she? I know she's the mum, but why should she be the one to make the decision? No, you are coming down to London with me. And Sean was just kind of... He was really upset about it. I think he should have woken up the next day and gone, what on earth have I done? I'm going to go back and get him.
I think he feels like he's in over his head, and he was kind of grateful that she's sorting the mess out. And I think he genuinely thinks that Dylan will be better off in London.
Maybe. I mean, it gets him away from Mason.
He also didn't have anywhere to live.
Yeah.
He was in an absolute mess, let's be honest.
Yeah. I was quite surprised when this happened. I'd known that Violet was turning up again. I didn't know how long she was going to be back for. But I didn't realise that she was literally coming here for an episode and going to whip Dylan straight back down south again. So it felt like it happened a little bit too quickly.
But I'm a bit confused about what the implications are for the bullying story now, because Liam's been completely sidelined ever since he got taken out of school. Mason's gone. We haven't seen him since he got in trouble, and now Dylan's kind of left with his tail between his legs. I'm a bit confused.
It feels
I don't feel like we had closure.
No, it kind of feels like the story's been put on ice.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that Mason's going to come out of prison or jail.
But he's not. What's he in?
I mean, he's in custody, and
I can't remember now because we didn't see any of it. We've just heard it second hand. It's not been a great way to let us know about.
But I just imagine he's going to come out and start marauding, and there'll be like some physical confrontation between him and Liam.
Yeah,
and something's going to happen, which I don't know what it is, and then the story will conclude with that. But
I mean, is he going to have his date in court? Because Dylan was Mason. Because Dylan was arrested a few episodes before Mason. So are we going to see Mason pleading guilty next week? And that'll be
it just feels like a bit of a weak...
It feels like we just want to put this story to bed for a little bit, and the best way to do that is to literally have the character, one of the main characters, down the other end of the country.
I'm not really feeling this.
What did you think about Violet being back there?
Funny, wasn't it? It was great. It's like, what? This is funny. How's she come back?
It was. It felt different to other Corrie comebacks.
Yeah, it did.
This year we've had quite a few. We've had Damon, we've had Harvey, we've had Bethany, we've had Tommy Orpington. But all of those felt like, oh, they've just come away. They've just come back from the show after a little bit away, and it feels like they're returning to the same program that they left. But Corrie, from when Violet was in it, and she first left the show in 2009, and then she made a little cameo appearance in a London special 2 years later. It feels like a completely different show in a different era. You know, back when she was in it, you still had the likes of Jack and Vera, or at least Jack still. No, I think Vera was still around then as well, at least for most of it, and a whole bunch of other proper classic old school Corrie characters. Deirdre was still there, but then you also had Violet. I kind of categorise in some kind of weird in-between sort of era of Coronation Street that had lots of other characters that have kind of been forgotten or aren't proper classics, like, you know, Dan Mason and Vernon and Marcus Dent even. It feels like there was an era where they would get a load of characters, they tried them out for a few years, and then got rid of them again. And so seeing somebody come back from that...
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just a proper blast from the past. And
I feel like we're going through that period now.
What?
In and out. A bunch of new people in and out.
Maybe. Yeah, very odd, but absolutely welcome. I mean, I'm not going to say Violet's my favourite character ever.
I did like seeing her again.
Yeah, I did, and
she looked just the same, didn't she?
She did, sickening. But she was kind of narky, which she was
very much. She was still Violet, wasn't she? She managed to summon her back.
Yeah, when we watched that episode of them stealing baby Dylan away from 15 years ago, she was a bit nasty then, wasn't she? Because she was, did a flip without planning to tell Sean about it, and yeah, she was a bit selfish about it, and I did kind of get that from this. So she wasn't the most likeable of characters, but so nice to see her again. And it's funny, it's like, you know, we have had other comebacks in the recent years, like Stephen and Spider and Wendy. But to me, they feel like they're kind of classic characters that have come back. It's just this 2000s, this early 2000s era where everybody feels a bit different and a bit kind of forgotten and a bit of... I don't know. I can't put it in words. It's just, yeah. So I'll just shut up and move on to the next story. Hope we get to see her again soon. Anyway, it's the Cassie one next. So I saw that Claire Sweeney and Maureen Lipman were going to be back in today's episode, but I had no idea that it was going to be related to the Lauren story and the whole sex worker thing. How did you feel about them revisiting this aspect of Cassie's past through Lauren's story?
Oh.
No, not a fan?
I'm trying to think about what I thought about it. I did kind of get a whiff of it's not about you from it. You know? Like, stop trying to make it about you. But then I guess lots of people listen to this podcast and think that about me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why are you bringing this up now? Why?
But
the only reason I can think of is why is because everybody in Corrie knows how bloody brilliant Cassie and Evelyn are in a scene together when they have something dramatic to talk about, and let's give Claire Sweeney and Maureen Lipman some great material. But it did feel a bit like, why has this happened?
But it's not very often that one story will directly influence or spark off another one. Yeah. We talk about the Corrie stories being in their own little bubbles and their own boxes around Weatherfield and Nary the Twain Shall Meet, and having Roy and Lauren's storyline set off something for... I know that Evelyn clearly is also in Roy's bubble, but everything else that's happening at number 9 isn't. So yeah, I appreciated how that worked, and I never thought we'd hear anything more about Cassie's past, because I remember thinking at the time when she told Tyrone, I did some things I wasn't proud of in the past. I was on the streets. I was a sex worker. I wasn't completely convinced that she was actually telling the truth, and I wondered whether she was making it up somewhat to get his sympathy and maybe let her stay living with him, but turns out it's canon now, and she definitely did it, and we get a little bit more of a hint in today's episode about his parenthood, don't we? So yeah, they've heard this story about Lauren being a sex worker, and Cassie's there looking a bit thoughtful because clearly she hasn't heard of any other prostitutes in the time that she's been living there, but it's this particular one that really gets her thinking, oh, that used to be me. So she's doing her yoga to calm down later when Tyrone comes home, and she's like, what's going on? Is it, are you okay? And she says, oh yeah, well, you know what I told you about my life before, and this has been a bit triggering, but I'll be okay. But she's clearly not. And when she's in the shop later, she overhears Daisy and Evelyn talking about Lauren's situation, and she starts having a go at them, doesn't she? She's saying, you victim blaming, and you saying it's Lauren's fault. And it's quite a nice impassioned speech about how women shouldn't have to behave just because how men might react to them, and that sounds like the sort of thing that you might have got into.
We've all seen Barbie.
Oh yeah, what did you think of that scene? Were you fighting Cassie's corner there?
Well, of course, it just feels like it goes without saying.
Because she came across as being slightly defensive about it, and slightly. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you that it sometimes feels very tiresome to have to defend your right to not be public property, or to, have to justify why you shouldn't be a victim of a crime for various reasons. So I completely agree with her, and I don't have much to add beyond that she's completely correct. And yes, she was a bit defensive.
But she had her reasons to be. I was definitely on her side. And then she goes out into the street. Evelyn comes after her. And Cassie even suggests that maybe Roy was one of her clients, Lauren's clients. So I felt today that we were supposed to be championing Cassie. And I know that she's not been the most popular character of a good chunk of viewers. And even with the fact that she's been sniffing around Kevin, we've been thinking, Is she a baddie? Is she a manipulative? But for this, I was feeling proper sorry for her, and but then she started possibly slandering Roy, so I don't know what to think.
I said to you when we watched it, when she was having a go at Daisy in the corner shop, and she was just jumping on everything Daisy said and twisting it and replying to it as though, like, the worst way to interpret what Daisy said was the correct thing, and what Daisy actually meant to say. Like, she was being very uncharitable in her translation of what Daisy was saying. I was like, this is a Twitter argument in real life.
It really was, wasn't it?
Like, two people arguing about something, both of them saying the other person said something completely different to what they actually said and taking complete offence, although it mostly was on Cassie in this scene.
Anyway, later on, Tyrone kind of accidentally reveals to his nana that possibly Cassie was triggered by something that she saw in the paper about Lauren, and Evelyn quickly puts two and two together and is like, are you saying that Cassie was on the game? So Tyrone kind of, although he wishes he hadn't said anything, he has to tell her the whole story now, and it was supposed to be a secret. And Evelyn, I found her reaction quite interesting, because she was dumbfounded for a bit, wasn't she? And then she definitely went down the path of, my daughter a prostitute, what am I supposed to do with this information? She doesn't want to discuss it with Tyrone. She very quickly makes an exit, doesn't she? She doesn't want to kind of say, tell me more about it. She needs to go away and collect her own thoughts.
Yeah.
Which end up meaning she goes back to work. It's almost like she wants to not confront this massive revelation, because she needs
time to process.
Yeah, and she doesn't like revealing her emotions.
She doesn't want people to see her, emotional.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, she ends up having to confront it, because Cassie comes into the shop later and even's like, Tyrone's told me everything. You're in the game back in the past. And Cassie also, as part of the conversation, confesses that her dad knew about it too. So this is great. I love it when they delve into the family history of some characters, when it's all a bit of a murky mystery still.
It's not just that, though.
No, and Cassie reckons that the fact, the shock that I was a prostitute is what killed my dad, and it's all very dramatic. And I'm sure we've had things like this before, wasn't it?
I know, that's what I was thinking. I'm
trying to think about who it was. It reminds me a little bit of Norris and how he blamed Ramsay for their mum dying when Ramsay showed back. It does a little bit.
But I guess you would feel guilty. I don't know how natural this is.
So many characters seem to think that because I had some kind of dramatic revelation, that's what killed off so-and-so. And Evelyn later on says to Cassie, look, he had a mega high cholesterol, he never exercised, he ate a load of rubbish, that's what killed him.
I'm starting to worry about myself. Salt, you say?
Yeah, well, yeah,
what makes food taste nice.
Anyway, so Cassie starts opening up to Evelyn a little bit more and saying, look, it was did she say it was one of her boyfriends that was making her sleep with his mates, I think, and that's how it all started, and I was only 15 at the time. And we find out about how Cassie's dad found out about it when he found some condoms and £100. That's a lot of discovered condoms in Coronation Street later, honestly, isn't there? But was he wearing gloves? That's kind of what's going to count at the end of the day. That's important information. Anyway, he died soon after that, and suddenly Evelyn says, hang on a minute, Tyrone's dad then, was he one of your clients? And Cassie doesn't say anything, but her expression says it all. And she wants that kept a bit of a secret for Tyrone. For the time being, I'm sure he's going to find out at a very dramatic moment at some point in the near future. Dad turns up. Maybe when the dad turns up. Maybe just the dad and Alina can turn up with baby Tyrone just at the same time. Just get it all out of the way now. How did you what do you think about this revelation? Are you happy to know a bit more about Tyrone's true, in inverted comma, parentage?
There's a lot of stuff that happens in Coronation Street where somebody will say something and I'm like, who are we supposed to think was his dad?
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Are we supposed
to know who the dad was? I'm not sure.
Okay, I assumed that at some point we would have a revelation, or that Tyrone's dad would turn up. I'm sure I said it to you.
I don't think. As much as I like hearing about characters' backstories, I'm not really fussed whether we meet Tyrone's real dad or not.
Tyrone's backstory is starting to become the most convoluted, ridiculous mess. And, retconning on Corrie is controversial. I don't always mind it. You got to kind of run with it sometimes, really, because you can't stop it, can you? So you have to just go with the flow. But I'm just envisioning the future in which Tyrone's dad turns up and, we're supposed to kind of hate him before we've even met him because he's, a punter who took advantage of Cassie. And then turns out that, through a series of completely understandable reasons, that he's actually got a heart of gold, and he was just down, like Cassie misunderstood and the money wasn't for her, but she took it. It was for the window cleaner. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be some stupid explanation as to why he actually isn't just a sex worker customer.
Yeah.
Who's like a sleazy guy.
I'm still not.
And they'll retcon it yet again. That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to retcon him and make him a good character, and then he'll be in it for a year and then bugger off again.
I still don't completely. I haven't given up on the. Have I? I can't remember whether I had given up on the idea or whether it's just come back to me again now. But what if Terry Duckworth is actually Tyrone's dad? Because I wouldn't have put it past him to have bonked a 15-year-old Cassie Plummer.
Well, no. She wasn't 15 though, was she?
I think that's what she said. Or was she older when she had...
Yeah, I think she was older because that's what Evelyn was working out, wasn't she? Although I don't know. But
so he was conceived in 1982, honestly, and that was the year before Terry came into the show.
The fact that Cassie is saying he was just a punter...
That opens the doors up for it could be somebody
so much more
that we know.
Likely that it was Terry, because she would have no reason to know who that is.
No.
And so it makes more sense. Otherwise it starts getting a bit like conspiracy theory-esque.
I kind of almost think that could be a retcon, a massively huge retcon that I could go with.
It's not
because
retcon, though. Why would it be a
it's
retcon?
one of these, not really a retcon in the same way that Billy killing Susan Barlow
It's like
isn't
you don't
really a
know it
retcon.
didn't
It
happen.
kind of is, really, isn't it?
Well,
but
no, it's not a
I could
retcon.
buy into it, because if the whole conclusion of this weird quagmire of Tyrone's backstory, if it ends up where
Going back,
he's
right
really,
back to where it started.
if he's really Jack and Vera's grandson,
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
I think I kind of would be like, that's kind
Okay,
of
then
nice,
we'll let
actually.
it slide.
Yeah.
We'll let it
I mean,
slide.
obviously, we're not going to be able to get the on-screen reunion between Jack Vera and Tyrone.
But imagine, though, that would be kind of devastating for Tyrone, because he would never be able to speak to them and let them know.
No. And it's
It'd
not
be
like they can
bittersweet, wouldn't
even
it?
get Bill Tarmy and Liz Dawn back
No.
on the show as ghosts like they did when Jack died.
Well, they did it with Princess Leia.
Yeah, but there's always scope for Terry Duckworth to come back on the street, and he's not been in the show for a good 10 years or
That
so
would
now.
be just, like, what would happen? Total meltdown.
And it seems, 2024 is the year of Corrie comebacks, isn't it? We're going to be getting into double figures soon, so why not get Pivaro back from wherever he is at the moment and have one last go with him and his son Tyrone. I think I might actually
Campaign
like
for
that
this.
one.
That's right in.
Okay. Anyway, I thought
And anyone
fab performances all round, especially from Tyrone's beard.
Anyone who's, yeah.
What was that? Like, is he going to keep the beard? Is it going to be is it a permanent David Platt style beard now? Or is it going to be a fair weather beard like when Nick had one for a little while? I don't know. Try it out.
When are we going to get the producer job on Corrie? Because that was a banging idea.
I'm not going to say that's my idea. It was one that I read online back, when Cassie came into it. But now that the idea that there's a mystery dad and the timeline kind of, he was busy getting Andrea Clayton pregnant around the same time as well, wasn't he?
Very
so
fertile.
he sowed his wild oats far and wide.
Oh my god, it would be just funny. Oh, I would just... I think it would enrage people, which is also quite fun to imagine.
It'd be one of these things where I'd probably initially go, oh, don't be ridiculous, and then I'd learn to love it and accept it quite quickly.
You just have to... You have to accept sometimes crazy stuff like that happens on the show. Right, next we're moving on to Tommy Orpington's story.
Yeah, I think
Tracy.
the stories we've got left are definitely the lesser stories of the week.
So on Monday, Tracy's talking to Tommy about... She's really getting into this idea that she wants to be an influencer, like WAG and the new fan status. I mean, being the wife of the local taxi firm owner's not quite got the same cachet as being an ex-footballer's girlfriend.
It's not, but I've not really seen that side of Tracy before, that she'd be bothered about being mega influential. Yes, she likes a good shop, but does she want the fame and the status that comes with being
Everyone thinks they do until they get it, and then...
But I don't think that she thinks she does. It felt a bit artificially thrown into this story.
Well, I don't
week.
know. I think Tracy's the sort of person who could get carried away with something. Anyway, she got 3,000 likes for a picture of a porn star martini.
Oh yeah,
Which is a lot. That's a lot. We never get 3,000 likes for anything.
no.
So
You need to start dating footballers, don't you? I'm not giving you permission or anything,
who
but
would I date? I don't think a footballer would put up with me. So Tracy's talking to Tommy about using his status to coin in, and he's like, look, I haven't really got the cachet for that. Like, I wasn't exactly Premiership. And then Steve comes over and makes some mysterious Spanish comments, which Tracy finds baffling.
Yeah, Steve is just still... He's milking the fact that
If
Tracy
you-
has dumped him in the bizarrest of way. And this week it comes out in that I'm going to speak Spanish to you across the street. And because
If you
I know
wondered
that
whether
you
this-
know that...
This was supposed to be taken seriously. This is your answer. So he doesn't know what's going on. And Steve says to Eileen, can't wait to see this crash and burn. Then Shona quizzes Tommy in the cafe and finds out that he's going to Spain and tells Sean about it. Then Steve tells Amy he's going to tell Tracy about the Spanish thing. And Amy says, I think I'd be able to do it more sensitively than
I'd
you.
kind of forgotten that Tracy didn't know. I've lost track of this story, because last week when they turned up at the bistro with Amy, I was like, are they still together? When's this transfer supposed to be happening?
I thought he'd
it
gone
feels
at one
like
point.
everybody knows, apart from Tracy, that Tommy's going off to Spain, just
think
like
that's the
everybody
point.
knows that Paul's planning to end
Cancel.
his own life. Yeah.
Right, so Tracy's in the pub later. Oh, I wonder if Swain's going to be involved. If Paul does end up doing that,
Probably.
Swain might end up having to arrest Billy.
Billy's going to have a night in the cells, isn't he? We all know it.
Don't know. So Tracy's in the pub later talking about how she's got to up her social media game now. She's with Tommy. She starts bragging about this photo, getting loads of likes. And Steve can't help himself. And he tells her that don't get used to it, love, because he's off to Spain soon enough. And Amy comes into the pub and shocked that Steve has told her before. And Tracy can't believe that both of them knew but didn't tell her. But so she pretends that she knew all along.
Yeah, Amy was planning to tell Tracy herself, wasn't she? Because she thought she'd be able to do it a little bit more sensitive.
So
yes.
She's like, I did know about it, and we were just a fling. I don't even care. And then she flounces off, and Amy's like, oh, what'd you do, Dad? So Tracy meets up with Tommy in the bistro and gives him some red carnations, and she's like, do you like them? They're the national flower of Spain. When are you going to tell me? And she's really mad at him, and then she pretends that she doesn't care and flounces off.
Yeah, she kind of like, well, I was only interested in you in the sex anyway. I'm not bothered. But she clearly is.
She clearly is. She's clearly fallen for him. So Steve goes to the shop later trying to get back with her. She's not interested. And then Amy comes in and Tracy realises that she's becoming the joke of the street. On a Wednesday, Tim realises that Steve wants to get Tracy back, but Steve's denying it. And he says, no, actually, I want to get back. I want to go on the dating scene. And they're trying to make a dating profile for him later. And Tim's not impressed with the photo that they're picking.
But Steve doesn't want to Photoshop it, does he?
No. Tommy goes to the shop to see Tracy, and Amy's there, and Tracy's ghosting him, and he wants to speak to her. And can Amy please tell Tracy that he wants to talk to her and that he's a good guy, really? And Amy's like, bog off. And
that's kind of it, isn't it? To use a football term, this story was kind of dribbling.
They were walking it in.
Yeah, it's like it's past the peak. It was exciting at one point.
And
they're dragging out the ending to this now.
I don't know where it's going, because Tommy's too much of a nice guy for me to think that he and Tracy shouldn't be together. But equally, and Tracy and Steve are so stupid sometimes and childish, especially in this story.
After all,
so I'm kind of at a loss here.
Yeah, I liked them together.
Who?
Tracy. Well, but I didn't mind Tracy and Tommy. I don't mind, and I did like
Exactly.
Tracy and Steve. It feels like that Tracy and Steve will get back together again, because who else would have them? And I'm sure we'll get a little bit of the adventures of Steve having failed dates with people, because comedy potential there, or what people think might be funny but might be a little bit embarrassing. But they'll probably will get back together again, and the fact that Steve is so desperate just shows that, come on, have a bit of self-respect, man. You were cheated on by your missus and you're just trying to crawl back to her. So yeah, it feels like a story that is a bit half-baked in that it was exciting for a while, but I think they'll probably just quietly get back together again, and then they'll put them in a box for another 6-12 months, One thing that I did want to mention for this story this week is we've got to, I think this week was the first time we saw it, the newly fronted Preston's Petals, didn't we?
Yeah, I do like this colour scheme much better.
Yeah, it's
Hot
lovely.
pink and black has always looked tacky.
Yeah, although they still did use the old design for the advert ident we saw in today's, didn't they? It's just a little bit more classy now, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks more like the sort
kind
of
like
thing I would...
pastely pink, capital letters, black, short. It's just, classy stuff. It was on Mike Gleason's Instagram. He was one of the graphic designers on Coronation Street, and he was saying this, it's the first time I've done a shop. It looks like, almost looks a bit too high class for Coronation Street though, maybe, because I'm used to the businesses there being a little bit more
cheesy and naff. Yeah,
naff back street sort of. Yeah, this looks a bit too high end. I'm sure I'll get used to it, and the inside of it is very nice as well.
Good.
So now we've had that, and Audrey's had a bit of a facelift in the last few years.
What's next? The Rovers?
Well, the Rovers has had a bit of one.
I know,
it's
that's
got a bar.
joke.
What, Roy's?
What, a bar?
Yeah, it's got a little bar to hold on to around the bar, hasn't it?
A bar around the bar?
Yeah. Anyway,
Roy's will never change.
Nothing to say about that story. It happened. Joseph, do you wanna quickly?
I just did the other one.
Did you? Oh, is that me? I thought, oh well, I'll talk about Joseph. Basically, they're gonna go and have a look around Oak Hill today, just to see whether he fancies it. And thank you very much. Chesney did mention the fact that he had a look around there himself back in the day. So nice little reference there. They go back after to the number 5 after what?
Well, hang on. They make him dress up, don't they? And they're making a big deal about it. And I think Gemma and Chesney are both making silly jokes about it, which I guess fine, whatever. But how crap is Joseph going to feel if you're making jokes about butlers and bloody tops and tails and top hats and things, and then he ends up actually going to the school?
Yeah. So Chesney and Gemma don't really want him to get dressed up, but Chesney ends up going along with what Linda said, which kind of riles Gemma up a little bit because she thinks that she's being undermined.
If you want to wear casual clothing to do a tour of Oak Hill, it better be, like Dolce & Gabbana sweatshirt.
Well, of course, we don't get to see any of Oak Hill. They would have done back in the day, but not in 2024. We get to see them come back later. Joseph's had a lovely time, but he has to pass the entrance exam first.
What's that one? Which spoon do you use for soup?
Joseph doesn't strike me as the sort of, he's not a child genius, is he?
He's not demonstrated in insightful intellect or anything.
Not really. But anyway, it seems to have even worked its magic on Gemma because she's backing down on her anti-Oak Hill stance towards the end of the episode. But Joseph, on the other hand, is getting a little bit nervous about it.
Aww.
That's basically it. Oh, and we also get the thing with Chesney having been sleeping on the sofa, apparently, ever since... What was it that he'd done wrong? I can't even remember.
He didn't believe Gemma about Lyme disease. And she's been making him sleep on the sofa ever since. Talk about holding a grudge.
That's a massive grudge. How long is that? 3 months that Chesney's been sleeping on the sofa, only because he didn't believe his son had Lyme disease, honestly.
When you say it like that, Michael, it seems unreasonable.
That whole Lyme disease thing was just a total mess.
Is he fine now?
I think he's all right now. I think he's better.
Maybe he can write that on his entrance exam.
Yeah.
So I've got Lyme disease. Is there a scholarship for that?
Honestly. It felt like that whole thing about Chesney scurrying up the stairs up to bed with Gemma was just the way. Maybe there were one or two really, really... hardcore viewers that were saying, oh, but what about the fact that Chesney was asked to sleep on the sofa then? Is he still sleeping on there? And this is Corrie saying, he's going back to bed. Yeah. Anyway.
I can't believe anyone's thinking of sending their child into private school after we've all seen Saltburn.
Yeah. That's why that was at university.
Oh, okay. Next, we've got Leanne Institute. On a Monday, Leanne and Nick are planning a nice lunch, and Leanne tells Simon about the chat she had with Rowan, and she wants to go along to the next talk with him.
Which just so happens to be that very day.
We're having a meeting that day, and Rowan's like, oh, good to see you, Leanne. Have you downloaded your updates and got a free download?
You need to plan these, Gemma.
I know, I need to write it out. Maybe I could start my own cult.
What would it be? What would be your thing?
I don't know, just give me money. I don't think you can go to that straight away, can you? She says, "I'm critical."
I think that as somebody who you like it in the kitchen, don't you? So I think you'd be using like culinary terminology to try and give your life advice. Like your life's just simmering at the moment.
You need to put it onto a full rolling boil.
Yeah.
You need to let the bad thoughts escape like steam and turn on your extraction fan to get rid of those negative energies.
Where do I sign? Henry Newton quote.
Do you know what we need? A good stir. Sometimes you need to amalgamate
all right, you're right. That's enough.
So Rowan's kind of got her on the hook here because she's like, thinking about it. Leanne and Simon come out the talk and they're chatting about how fascinating it was, and she's like, "Oh, what was that about algorithms increasing your output? Like, what are you talking about?"
As fun as I think it is, I really do think that Leanne's falling for it a bit too quickly. I would have liked to have seen her maybe gradually over time buying into this kind of very weird patter that he's given her.
This is really difficult because I genuinely think that Leanne is a really good mark for a cult.
Well, especially after what happened with Ollie.
She's gone through so much trauma. She's not really taken seriously. She's kind of, I think she's very vulnerable. But the stuff they're having them say, it's just ludicrous.
She's smart enough to notice, hang on a minute, what a bunch of weirdos.
None of this makes any sense. But how do you portray that on... The thing is, because I'm sure lots of people listening have also done this, there's loads of shows about cults and there's lots of podcasts and things about cults. And when you listen, even when these people are explaining how they got sucked in, you just can't help but think a lot of it just sounds like obvious nonsense and stupidness. But the thing is, they don't launch that on you straight away. That's the difference between real life and this story. That he wouldn't jump at you immediately and start talking about your algorithms. There would be a lot more. You basically get invested to the point at which you can't accept its nonsense, I think. But anyway, she like you said, she's fallen for it pretty quick, and Rowan's pleased to hear how inspired they were, and they're definitely coming back. Then she goes on to talk to Nick about it later and saying, it made me realise I can be a cow bag sometimes. And Nick's like, yeah, you are. I'm glad you found a cult that makes it your fault.
Nick thinks it's great because she's probably gonna take the stick out of her bum after.
Yeah.
After
what do you think she's gonna? Do you think she's gonna start?
Although in her case it's a USB stick that she will be removing.
Remove your USB stick from port 2, Leanne.
What are you going to ask them?
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think she's going to start using jargon on Nick and is going to worry about her?
He's going to be like, what? Leanne, what are you talking about?
Nick, you need to change your programming.
I don't know. I'm really keen to find out, but the story's just had a full start. It was a bit on Friday, wasn't it? And a bit Monday this week, and that was the last that we saw of it. I was ready for a full-on week of Institute madness, and we basically just got an exact repeat, except this time it was Leanne and Simon with Rowan rather than Leanne and Debbie.
Are they making this a serious cult story? That's what I want to know.
I can't. Yeah, I need the story to come back and have a full-on week so that we can tell.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm open. I'm willing to be convinced. I'm ready to go into the cult myself. But
you haven't read the Damon story.
Oh, was that? Oh, yeah, there was Damon stuff that happened. Sorry, I just skimmed to the top of my notes and I forgot that Damon was in it. Well, basically all that happens
this wound me up.
It's Harry's birthday on Monday. He's bought him a VR headset. Jealous. But unfortunately for him, the party clashes with the job that he has to do, which is, what did he say? What did Harvey say? He's doing over a van, hijacking a van. And you can't get out of it, sorry. So Damon ends up putting on a little early birthday present for Harry, which involves balloons and a cake. And Sarah's telling him how wonderful he is and what on earth would I ever do without you.
She's just so besotted with this incredibly mediocre man who is doing nothing.
What do you mean?
Well, he's just talking a big game. He hasn't done anything, has he?
He's just been dreamy.
It's not, though. I'm getting wound up with Sarah. She's such an empty-headed idiot. I hate women like this. She's like, oh, Damon, I really want to buy a house and live in it. It's nice, but I can't afford it. And he's like, don't worry, I've sorted out some jobs, and you don't have to worry about a thing.
Don't ask any questions. Okay, I wasn't going
to. I'm going to put an offer in. Don't worry. It's like, no, be a bit more involved in your life, Sarah, you dolt. Ask him some questions. It's not just, how can she be so trusting to put her entire life's future into the hands of this guy that she didn't even want going out with at the beginning of the year, was she?
No.
She's such a vacuous moron. How could you be so irresponsible with your future and your child?
I know.
Like, oh, well,
the fact that she knows
Damon said
what he's got
fine.
up to in the past.
What is his job,
well.
Sarah? Do you know what his job is?
No, she doesn't care. She doesn't.
Where's the money coming from? Do you know how a mortgage actually works?
Well, I feel that she may well have it come crashing down on her next week.
She deserves it.
Do you any predictions for Monday? Is he going to get caught?
Yeah.
Is it all going to go wrong?
Yeah.
Is the job? Is he actually going to be hijacking the van that's going to be bringing the clown to Harry's birthday party, and the party can't go ahead, and it's all Damon's fault?
No, he opens the back of the car, and then a clown comes out and then another one, and then another one, and then 100 to come out.
What if it's a prison van and Harvey is
in it?
Yeah, exactly. He's using Damon as helping him escape. I've got no idea. I don't know whether there's been any spoilers.
I'm not looking forward to it, and I don't care.
I'm not. I'm not that fussed about what it is.
Nope.
If Harvey, I've got it in my head that maybe Harvey is still potentially going to come out at some point, and if this is it and it gets the storyline over and done with, then great. But
I find this completely uninteresting.
At a time when we've got Paul and Billy's story starting up again, we're getting some great stuff with Roy and Evelyn. We've got the Institute story that I just want to have more screen time. We've got a Cassie story. I don't know how much of a story that is, or whether it's just kind of teasing the fact that there's a potential dad on the horizon. But there's all this that I'm starting to get a little bit more interested in, and it has been a slow start to 2024. Now that this is threatening to take over a good chunk of Monday's episode, I don't want it to, especially because that's when we got Rachel come around, isn't it, for our Monday evening house guest, and I want to make sure that she sees quality episodes every Monday and not a load of gangstery rubbish. Sorry, it's just not my favourite story at the moment.
What did you think of the week on the whole, Michael?
Yeah, it didn't take up a whole bit of this week. I thought it was a good week. It was a good. The Roy stuff was pretty strong. The interview scenes again with Swain, superb. Vigil, but putting David Neilson front and centre at Coronation Street for a week is never going to be a bad move. The karaoke scenes with Paul and Billy today were lovely. They struck that balance between tragedy, comedy really, really well. Returning character and Violet. I think I'm going to give it 4 parts of Lauren shown online out of 5, and I'll put that down to your imaginations about what those parts are. You?
There's a lot of stuff in this that I didn't care about.
There was for me, but they were so much. Like the Joseph story was a day and it was over. The Damon story was a day and it was over.
Yeah, but I'm worried. I'm getting worried about how they're parking some stories and picking them up again, and how difficult it is to really keep in your head what's going on, even for us. So I don't know what...
For the casual viewer, I don't know how they're managing to keep up with remembering what was the last thing that...
you really
what was the last
stuff?
thing that was going on with Gemma and Chesney
Maybe I've just got really bad memory. But I'm going to give it 3.5, I'm afraid.
That's all right. That's still good. That's fine. That's averagely good.
3.5 disturbed soprano pipistrelles. Because one of them has been cut in half by Spade.
Gross. Okay, character of the week then.
Is it Roy?
Is it Roy? Is it... Paul was great. Violet for the first time. She wasn't particularly endearing character, was she? As much as it was nice to see her again.
Well, she wasn't there to be nice and make friends. She was there to get her son back.
Yeah, Evelyn's always a good call.
I'm gonna give it to Roy.
Yeah, I think I might go Roy. He's just a, he
means well.
He means well, and he doesn't realise that he's saying the wrong thing and making himself look bad.
Shrieking about how beautiful somebody is at their vigil.
I think
and that he didn't kill them.
Yeah.
Not a good look.
He's the character that I've been most engaged with watching this week. Unless I can think of anyone else very, very quickly. No, I don't think there is. I think I'm going to go Roy. I'm going to go for the easy option. Should have given it more thought, really, but I probably would have ended up with Roy anyway. Yeah. So Roy, just in case you weren't sure, 'tis Roy.